Hi, I'm Josh and this is Rob. We're going to go through a few things that you should look at your corn head for a pre-season inspection to try and make things go as smooth as possible. Rob, you want to start us out?
First thing, with your snoots up, you're going to come look through your gathering chains. Make sure all your rollers roll nice and evenly. They're not cracked, busted, any of them missing. You're going to check your adjustment. You want about an 1/8 inch. Check your idlers, make sure they're not rounded off. Make sure your chain is not touching this washer. If it's touching your washer, you're gonna have to pull your idler off. Check your bearings, make sure you don't got anything going on there. Up to your drive sprocket, you wanna make sure it's nice and square like this, not rounded off. Your deck plates, you're gonna make sure they're nice and smooth and straight, not busted. And you want your deck plate
about an 1/8 inch tighter in the front than the back. If you ever end up with your back tighter than the front, it actually wedges the stocks in there, and you end up plugging up and spurted up slip clutches, that type of deal. So if you keep them a little bit tighter in the front than the back, it keeps crop flow a lot easier. General rule of thumb on the width you set your deck plates in season is going to be about as tight as possible. Just enough to get that stock to slide through there. The tighter you get it, the less grain loss you've got. The other thing you want to check to make sure that they're not cupping out in the back. That's where the stocks generally pull through, and we see a lot of them where they start wearing there before anywhere else. If that starts getting a little bit bigger gap, you can have some head shell there also. Other thing you want to check is make sure that your guides are still in good condition here on your chains. If they're cracked or broke, you can actually get stocks plugging in there that will interrupt your flow also. Other things, as long as you're right up in front here, take a look at your ear savers, make sure they're all there. Only takes a few seconds to change these out when they rip, but you can actually lose a fair amount of crop through these throughout a season.
Your chopping gear case, check, drain hole would be right here. You do that with your head all the way up. You just pull the plug, you want to see oil right at the bottom of it if it's low, 80, 90. Then put your plug back in.
And the roll unit gear case has actually got a dipstick. That plug is up in the center behind the Nape Rolls themselves. Other thing you want to look at is your Nape Rolls. Make sure the edges on them are not rounding off. If they round off, you end up with more vibration and you start throwing ears off before they actually get into the head. So make sure you get a good clean edge there. There are a few different types of rolls, so if you are interested in switching to a new roll, you may want to discuss with a parts professional or a salesman or a service manager to decide what style of roll you want to switch to. Now we're going to have Chad raise the head up quick, then we'll take a look at the other side.
So when you get to your underside, you're gonna look at your chopping knives. Make sure they're not cut, dinged up. You're gonna make sure that bushing's still in there, where they still rotate nice and free. There's a bushing underneath when you take the bolt out, it sits in. You look at your curtains. Make sure they're all intact, no cuts.
Other thing you want to mention that if you saw me, I was back there putting the safety stop in. Never work underneath one of these heads without a stop in. It's way too dangerous. On these knives here, we talked about the bushing in there. You want to make sure that that's tight. You can end up with a lot more vibration if that bushing is wore out. The knives will actually wear out themselves in the center. So when they start to get dull on one side, it's best to go ahead and turn them. If you let them go too far one way, they really don't balance out very well anymore, and they actually start to rob a lot of horsepower from the machine if you've got dull knives on there. So you want to keep a good sharp edge there at all times. When you change knives, it's probably best to put the bushings in new too as well.
Then on the back side of the head, where you can't see, you have these slip clutches. You want to check them, make sure they're nice and tight. If they're loose, there's these little ears in here that get worn out. And while you're under there, one shot of grease. Over greasing causes slippage.
and premature wear. A lot of people like to get in there with a grease gun, give her a couple pumps on each one. That's actually doing more damage than good. It's more just to keep the moisture out and to keep the corrosion down. Over to this side of the head, you can see the header height sensor. The 600 series head actually will spring backwards. There are 2 springs on that. They do break time to time, so make sure that they're in good condition. Make sure that it doesn't have a lot of side-to-side slop in it. That can throw things off as well.
Then we'll get into your row sense. You want to make sure you got about a 7/8 gap all the way through. Too much gap will cause your head to float around. You won't be able to pick up the rows.
There is an adjustment you can change on the back underneath here on the divider itself to bring them in or out. If that doesn't give you enough movement to get these tight, you can go ahead and heat them up and bend them a little bit. That seems to do the trick.
You want to make sure they move freely, front to back.
So over on the left side of the head, we've got your auger drive chain. It's best to tension that at the start of every year. Depending on your amount of acres, you may want to replace it every year. It's just cheap maintenance. One chain can cause you a half a day of headache, and you don't seem to get anything done. The other thing is the row unit chain case is also here. We pulled the cover off. That chain in there should be tensioned once a year, and the oil should be changed as well. It's easiest to fill it when the cover's off. So pull the cover off, drain it out. The drain plug's on the bottom here. Holds the cord 80-90. You can get your hand in and pull up on the chain to check your tension here. To tighten that up, just loosen the 3 nuts here. Slide it down to about as tight as you can get it with your hand. Tighten them up, and that should take care of this side.
We'll go to the drive shafts. You can slide these covers off with 3 tabs. You want to check your U-joints. Make sure they're nice and tight on your yokes. Make sure the caps ain't rolling around in there. There is 2 grease zerks on your shields here to keep everything rotating nice and free. You can take it all off, clean the whole shaft, so it slides in and out nice. You come to your multi-coupler. You want to check your pins, make sure there's no corrosion. This has got to be nice and clean when you hook it to the combine. That way you're not getting any contaminants in there, blowing the seals out.
A few of the things we'll just review here. The oil used in the 600 series corn heads is an 80-90. Synthetic's not really necessary for that one, so it's best to keep some of that around. Check them a couple times a year if you've got the chance. The grease we like to use on just about the whole machine is polyurea. Fairly common in just about any John Deere store. If you've got an older 900 or 90 or 40 series corn head, you're going to want to use the regular John Deere corn head grease. To put in the Deere cases, it's really the only one to use. Chopping knives, as we talked about before, this is the opening, and this is how tight that bushing needs to be in there. If you get that loose, it rattles in there, and they kind of open up the holes a little bit more.
Your deck plates, if you do start seeing your damage, this is nice and smooth.
Gathering chains, like we said, make sure your rollers are free. A stuck roller will actually wear on your idler sprockets and your driver sprockets. The inexpensive year savers that can actually save you a fair amount of crop on a day-to-day basis, take the 5 minutes, change one out. The bigger one is the slip clutch we talked about. Make sure that these drive cogs are still tight. You can kind of feel it when you get underneath there. If you've got one that's wore pre-season, I would definitely take the time, pull it out, and inspect anything else. As for that, if you've got any questions, please feel free to give us a call or bring your head in and we can take a look at it for you. Thank you for your time, and again, if there's questions, give us a call.